What kind of person fakes being a dietitian just to bully a cafe staff into swapping her soda? Karen Miller was that person, striding into Brood Awakening with the swagger of someone who believed the world owed her. Her oversized purse swung like a weapon as she pushed past the line, ignoring the murmurs of other customers. The cafe was a cozy haven on Main Street, its wooden tables packed with students and remote workers sipping lattes. But Karen's voice sliced through the hum like a knife. "You gave me the wrong drink," she barked at Mia, the young barista behind the counter, her face already twisting into a familiar scowl. Mia, barely 19, froze, clutching a can of regular cola. "Ma'am, I'm sure I got your order right," she said, voice trembling but polite. Karen's eyes narrowed, her chins quivering with indignation. "Don't ma'am me. I'm a dietitian and I specifically asked for Diet Cola. This is full sugar poison." The lie was so blatant, so audacious, that the cafe went quiet. Mia's hands shook as she double-checked the order slip. Karen had ordered a regular Cola Clear as day. But Karen wasn't here for truth. She was here for power. Mia's coworker, Jake, leaned against the espresso machine, watching the scene unfold. He'd seen Karen before, always demanding free upgrades or complaining about imaginary slights. Last week, she'd claimed the muffins were gluten-heavy and got a refund without proof. Jake whispered to Mia, "She's lying again. She's no dietitian." Mia nodded, her face pale but resolute. She'd been working double shifts to save for college, and Karen's tantrums were the last thing she needed. "Ma'am, I can get you a Diet Cola if you'd like," Mia offered, trying to defuse the situation. Karen smirked, sensing weakness. "You'd better, and make it quick. I know your manager, and I'll have your job if you mess this up." The threat hung heavy, but Mia didn't flinch. She grabbed a Diet Cola from the fridge, her mind racing. Karen's lie about being a dietitian wasn't just a flex, it was a calculated move to humiliate her. The other customers shifted uncomfortably. A woman with a laptop glanced up, frowning. A man in a suit muttered something about entitled Karens. But Karen reveled in the attention, her voice growing louder. "This place is a health hazard. I'm reporting you to the board." Mia's heart sank. She couldn't afford to lose this job. Jake, however, had other plans. He slipped into the back, where Sarah, the shift supervisor, was prepping pastries. "Karen's at it again," he said, his voice low. "Claims she's a dietitian now." Mia's about to crack. Sarah, a no-nonsense woman with a knack for handling difficult customers, raised an eyebrow. "A dietitian? Her? Let's test that." Sarah grabbed a Diet Cola and a small bottle of sugar-free syrup, her mind already spinning a plan. She'd worked in food service long enough to know how to deal with people like Karen, people who thrived on making others feel small. Back at the counter, Mia handed Karen the Diet Cola, her hand steady now. "Here you go, ma'am. Diet Cola, just as you asked." Karen snatched the can, inspecting it like a detective. "This better be right," she snapped, popping the tab and taking a long swig. Her face twisted instantly, lips puckering as if she'd bitten a lemon. "What is this garbage?" she sputtered, slamming the can down. The cafe erupted in stifled giggles. Mia bit her lip, unsure whether to apologize or stand her ground. Jake, now back at the counter, leaned in with a grin. "That's Diet Cola, ma'am. Exactly what you asked for." Karen's face reddened, her lie exposed in front of everyone. But she doubled down. "This isn't diet. You're trying to poison me." Her voice was a screech now, drawing every eye in the room. Sarah emerged from the back, her expression calm but her eyes sharp. "Is there a problem, ma'am?" she asked, her tone deceptively sweet. Karen launched into a tirade, repeating her claim of being a dietitian and threatening lawsuits. Sarah nodded, unfazed. "Interesting. As a dietitian, you'd know the difference between regular and Diet Cola, right? Care to explain why this one's wrong?" The question caught Karen off guard. She stammered, her confidence cracking. It's too sweet. It's not what I ordered." Sarah crossed her arms. "That's funny because we double-checked. It's diet, all right. Maybe your expertise is a little rusty. The crowd murmured, some openly chuckling. Karen's lie was unraveling, and she knew it. But then came the twist no one saw coming. A woman in the corner, who'd been quietly sipping her coffee, stood up. She was middle-aged, with a professional air and a badge clipped to her jacket. "I'm Dr. Elaine Carter," she said, her voice clear and authoritative. "I'm an actual dietitian, and I've been listening to this nonsense." "Ma'am, you're no dietitian. I checked the state registry last week for a conference, and there's no Karen Miller listed." The cafe went silent again, the weight of the revelation sinking in. Karen's face drained of color. She'd been caught, not just by the staff but by someone who could call her bluff with facts. Mia's eyes widened, a flicker of hope replacing her fear. Jake and Sarah exchanged a glance, barely hiding their satisfaction. Karen, however, wasn't done. She straightened, her voice shaking but defiant. "You don't know what you're talking about. I'll sue you all." The confrontation was reaching its peak. Karen's threats grew wilder, but her authority was gone. Customers were openly recording now, their phones capturing every moment of her meltdown. Mia, emboldened by Dr. Carter's intervention, spoke up. "Ma'am, we gave you exactly what you asked for. If you don't like it, that's not our fault." Her voice was steady now, backed by the truth. Karen's eyes darted around, realizing she was losing the room. She grabbed her purse, muttering about lawyers, but Sarah wasn't letting her off that easily. "Before you go," Sarah said, holding up the Diet Cola can, "let's talk about false claims. Impersonating a professional is a legal issue. We've got witnesses." Karen froze, her bravado crumbling. The cafe, once a stage for her performance, was now her trap. Karen's hands trembled as she clutched her purse, her eyes darting between Sarah's calm stare and the phones recording her every move. The cafe, once her arena for dominance, now felt like a courtroom. Dr. Elaine Carter stood firm, her badge gleaming under the lights, a silent reminder of Karen's exposed lie. "Impersonating a dietitian isn't just unethical," Elaine said, her voice cutting through the tension. "It's a misdemeanor in this state. You could face fines or even jail time." Karen's mouth opened, then closed, her usual bluster failing her. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, a mix of amusement and disapproval. Mia, still behind the counter, felt a surge of courage. She'd been terrified of losing her job, but now, with Karen's facade crumbling, she saw a chance to stand up for herself. Sarah, sensing the shift, stepped closer to Karen. "We've got your order history," she said, holding up a tablet with the cafe's records. "You've been coming here for months, always ordering regular cola, never diet. Care to explain why a dietitian would do that?" The question was a trap, and Karen knew it. Her face twisted, caught between rage and panic. "You're making this up," she snapped, but her voice lacked conviction. Jake, leaning casually against the counter, chimed in. "We've got receipts, Karen, and cameras." He pointed to the small security camera above the register, its red light blinking steadily. Karen's eyes followed his gesture, and for the first time, she looked genuinely afraid. The twist deepened as Elaine pulled out her phone, scrolling through a professional database. "I just checked the state's dietitian registry again," she said, her tone matter-of-fact but laced with disdain. "Still no Karen Miller. But you know what's interesting? There's a record of someone with your name being banned from a local gym for giving unsolicited nutrition advice to members." The revelation hit like a thunderclap. A few customers gasped, others laughed outright. Karen's face burned red, her hands balling into fists. She'd been exposed not just as a liar but as a repeat offender. Mia, watching it all, felt a knot in her chest loosen. She'd spent months enduring Karen's tantrums, always swallowing her frustration to keep her job. Now the truth was out and it felt like justice. But Karen wasn't ready to surrender. She straightened, her voice rising to a shrill pitch. "You're all conspiring against me. I'll have this place shut down." She turned to the crowd, expecting sympathy, but found only raised eyebrows and shaking heads. A teenage girl filming on her phone whispered to her friend, "This is going viral." Karen's threats were losing power, but she doubled down, pointing at Mia. "You little girl, you're done here. I know the owner." Mia's heart skipped, but Sarah stepped in front of her, protective. "Actually, I know the owner too," Sarah said, her voice ice-cold. The standoff was electric. Karen, cornered, lashed out with wild accusations, claiming the cafe was unsanitary, the staff incompetent, and the Diet Cola tampered with. But her words fell flat. The customers, now openly hostile, began to speak up. "Lady, just leave." The man in the suit called out. "You're embarrassing yourself," added the woman with the laptop. Karen's eyes widened, realizing she'd lost the crowd entirely. Elaine, still calm, added fuel to the fire. "If you keep this up, I can report you to the state board myself. I have contacts." The threat was real, and Karen knew it. Her shoulders slumped, her purse slipping slightly in her grip. Jake, ever the opportunist, decided to push further. He grabbed the Diet Cola can Karen had slammed down and held it up like a trophy. "You said this was poison, right? Funny, because it's the exact brand you claimed you wanted. Maybe you just don't like the taste of your own lies." The crowd erupted in laughter, and Karen's face twisted in humiliation. She opened her mouth to retort, but no words came. For the first time, she was speechless. Mia, watching Karen's defeat, felt a quiet triumph. She'd been pushed around for too long, but now, with Sarah, Jake, and even a stranger like Elaine backing her up, she felt untouchable. Karen's collapse was imminent, but she made one last desperate move. "I'm calling my lawyer," she shouted, fumbling for her phone. Her hands shook so badly she dropped it, the device clattering to the floor. The teenage girl filming zoomed in, giggling. "This is gold," she whispered. Sarah, unfazed, picked up the phone and handed it back to Karen with a smile. "Go ahead, call. But you might want to tell your lawyer about the penalties for false impersonation first." Karen snatched the phone, her eyes blazing, but she didn't dial. She knew she was out of moves. The cafe, once her stage, was now her prison. Every eye judging her, every phone ready to immortalize her downfall. As Karen stood there, frozen in defeat, Mia found her voice again. "Ma'am, we just want to do our jobs," she said, her tone firm but kind. "You don't have to make this harder than it is." The words were simple, but they carried weight. They were a plea for decency, a line drawn in the sand. Karen's lip trembled, her bravado gone. She muttered something incoherent, grabbed her purse, and stormed toward the door. The crowd parted, some clapping sarcastically as she passed. The bell above the door jingled as she fled, leaving behind a can of Diet Cola and a room full of people who'd seen her for what she was. The cafe buzzed with energy as the door slammed behind Karen, the jingle of the bell a final note in her humiliating exit. Mia let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding, her hands still trembling from the confrontation. Jake high-fived Sarah, his grin wide. "That was epic," he said, tossing the Diet Cola can into the recycling bin with a flourish. Sarah shook her head, but a smile tugged at her lips. "Let's not make a habit of this," she said, though her eyes sparkled with pride. Dr. Elaine Carter, still standing by her table, gave Mia a nod of approval. "You handled that well, kid," she said, slipping her badge back into her pocket. The customers, now returning to their coffees and laptops, buzzed with chatter, some already posting videos online with hashtags like Karen Meltdown and Soda Swap Fail. Mia, however, wasn't ready to celebrate. She felt a mix of relief and unease. Karen's tantrums had been a constant shadow over her shifts, but this victory felt fragile. What if Karen came back? What if she really knew the owner? Sarah, sensing her worry, put a hand on her shoulder. "You did good, Mia. Don't let her get in your head." Mia nodded, but her mind was still racing. She'd stood up to Karen, backed by her team and a stranger's courage, but the fear of retaliation lingered. Elaine, packing up her things, overheard and chimed in. "People like her thrive on fear. You took that away today. She won't be back anytime soon." Her words were a bomb, grounding Mia in the moment. The aftermath wasn't just about Karen's defeat, it was about what it meant for everyone else. The cafe staff, galvanized by the encounter, started brainstorming ways to protect themselves from future Karens. Sarah proposed a new policy, documenting every customer complaint with timestamps and receipts, just in case. Jake suggested a wall of shame for serial complainers, though Sarah shot that down with a laugh. "We're not that petty," she said. But the idea sparked a sense of camaraderie. They were a team and they'd face down a bully together. The customers, too, seemed different, more engaged, more supportive. The man in the suit slipped an extra 10 into the tip jar, winking at Mia. "For dealing with that nonsense," he said. Days later, the story of Karen's meltdown went viral. The teenage girl's video racked up thousands of views, with comments praising Mia's composure and Sarah's quick thinking. Elaine's takedown of Karen's fake credentials became a highlight, shared across local forums and even picked up by a food service blog. The cafe saw a surge in business, with curious locals stopping by to support the staff who'd stood their ground. But for Mia, the real change was internal. She'd always seen her job as a means to an end, a way to pay for college. Now, she saw it as something more, a place where she could stand up for herself, where her voice mattered. Karen, meanwhile, didn't return. Word spread that she'd been banned from other local businesses for similar stunts. Her reputation in tatters. The gym incident Elaine mentioned turned out to be just one of many complaints against her. From harassing baristas to demanding free services at salons. Legal consequences loomed, too. Elaine followed through, reporting Karen's impersonation to the state board, which opened an investigation. The fines weren't steep, but the public shaming was punishment enough. Karen's name became a cautionary tale, a reminder that lies have a way of catching up. For Mia, the experience was a turning point. She started speaking up more, not just at work but in her life. She enrolled in a public speaking course at her community college, inspired by Elaine's confidence and Sarah's calm authority. Jake, ever the jokester, dubbed her Karen Slayer, a nickname that stuck among the staff. Even months later, when a new customer started raising their voice, Mia handled it with a steady gaze and a polite but firm response, channeling the strength she'd found that day. The cafe became more than a workplace, it became a community, one that stood together against entitlement and lies. The story of Karen's soda swap wasn't just about a single confrontation. It was about the power of truth, the strength of standing up, and the ripple effect of courage. Mia learned that even in the face of someone like Karen, she could hold her own. Sarah and Jake learned they could protect their team without losing their cool. And the customers, from Elaine to the man in the suit, learned that a small act of support could change the course of a day. As for Karen, her grimace at the taste of Diet Cola was more than a reaction to a drink, it was the bitter taste of her own deception. A lesson she wouldn't soon forget. The cafe's bell jingled again, but this time it was just another customer, ordering a latte with a smile. Mia rang them up, her hands steady, her heart light. The world kept turning, and Brewed Awakening remained a haven not just for coffee, but for the kind of humanity that shines when people stand together.